England, traditionally a land of heroes and great statesmen, is in the grip of a new regime. The country is being run by women.
The two Ronnies considered response to what used to be called Women's Lib. Tastefully illustrated like this, at a time when feminism was a powerful political issue.
The 60s and 70s are often seen as the golden age of feminism, where people like Germaine Greer and Joan Bakewell began to change the world for women. But after recent events, you could be forgiven for wondering whether, more than 40 years on, things are actually that different. Did the women's movement really move anything?
You couldn't get a mortgage unless there were two building societies over 40, which I wasn't, and in a very respectable thing like being a teacher or a doctor, and I was neither. So it was a necessary movement.
But the gains made then may have become something of a double-edged sword now.
Well, I think ironically one of the problems is almost that there's this perception that such legislative equality has been won, that there's a sense there are no more problems now. And therefore, if women do try to talk about these problems, if they do try to speak out about sexism or sexual harassment, there's often this case of calm down, dear, that's not a thing anymore.
And could that, to some extent, actually have its roots in the sexual liberation of women in the 60s and 70s?
Men's attitudes never really have to evolve in any way. And the coming of the pill meant that they didn't have to take any responsibility. And that was wonderful, sweet shop time. So I think actually it led to quite a lot of sexual exploitation of women because there wasn't the threat of having a baby.
Which is why today's feminists think those in power now need to step up.
I do think perhaps there's a particular part to play here for men in power, because right now the spotlight is on this issue and they have a very important decision to make about the message that they send to other men and to women working in those workplaces and to young women thinking about their career prospects, about whether or not this will be taken seriously.
Men have broad shoulders and narrow hips, and accordingly they possess intelligence.
But how much have the women who went before helped their cause?
The feminist movement has tended at times to say all women are victims, and the next sentence saying all women are powerful, but they don't exert their power, i.e. it's the women's fault. It's a very contradictory message. And if it's contradictory for women, it's certainly contradictory for men, who are not very subtle creatures,
Hard to argue with that. But despite the efforts of the giants of feminism then, some women now may feel the two Ronnies really didn't need to worry their pretty little heads.